Hello everyone, Elspeth here, and today we are back in Rising World. So today's project is starting off completing. It's going to be basically completing the first miniature gatehouse in and out of our secured compound here. And I have the video sped up because the first time that I recorded this, there was a glitch with the audio, which I didn't realize until I went to edit the video. So I decided to time-lapse the footage and do a voiceover. So hopefully it doesn't look too jerky. Sometimes with the time lapses, it's not quite as good as I would like. So I still have a lot of my stone. It's going to be the same texture for the gatehouse. I will work in some other things, but the primary texture is going to be the same. And I was trying to decide on a ranged weapon because I don't have one, and I feel that as I start going outside the compound, I really do need to actually have a good way to defend myself from a distance. Of course, I'll keep a melee weapon on me at all times, but I did want a ranged weapon as well. I was thinking about the crossbow, but I decided I didn't want to go through the process of preparing additional components for it. I would love the rifle, but I don't have everything I need for it. So I'm settling on the musket. It has a bit of a longer loading time and it has a little bit of a lower accuracy rate, but I'm hoping we're not going to need to use it often enough to make a difference. I mean, ideally, we could do one shot and take them out and not have to worry about at least one of them. So I did do a little cut there, just sleeping through the night. And now I have all of my supplies gathered and I'm ready to start work. So since we already have this lovely little pathway here, it makes sense to utilize it. And I do plan on extending these pathways throughout the compound, just because I really do kind of like them. They're a nice little, I think they add a sense of cohesion to it. Instead of just all these random things all over the place, a nice pathway that connects everything together. I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm going with the solid metal doors because I'm not sure if the bandits could perhaps shoot through the barred doors, the grill doors, and I don't really want to find out. So I'm doing these instead. And I do want these little gatehouses. There will be more than just this one. This is just the very first one. I want them to look fairly imposing. I do want it to be kind of obvious that, this is a bit of a secure area, not just something that someone would stroll right through. And I'm using the same thing for the windows that I've been using for the guard tower windows, which is those bars, or that bar look, basically. I think that that's really nice, pretty appropriate, again, for the overall style that I'm going for here. I'm very happy with how that fits in with the rest of the theme. And I don't want to make these gatehouses too big because there are going to be two sides to them, one on either side of the main wall. So I don't really feel that either side needs to be particularly large. Again, not trying to make them a really comfortable feel. Instead, kind of going a little bit more for that kind of cramped utilitarian look. We're definitely going for function over form. And that's just going to be kind of with everything. We're going to be doing that with this build. I think that given the new update, given the fact that we have bandits to worry about, I think that that just makes more sense, because it's not like we can just set up a cute little cabin in the woods and say, oh, look, we have this lovely little house and we're all set. No, we have to now think in terms of what threats we might be facing. And yes, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I am generally speaking trying to go with that sort of a feel for this particular build. That was kind of the idea going into it, was that I did want something that would seem appropriate in light of the NPC update. And I'm very happy with how it's coming along so far. I hope you guys are too. If you have any comments or suggestions, if you have an idea that would make it a little bit more realistic, a little bit better, drop a comment down below. Always glad to hear your ideas. And now comes the kind of risky part. You can see I'm loading my musket here first, just in case. I'm about to go through the outer wall. Now, when I say that this is just the first gatehouse, I'm thinking that on the other side of the compound, I'm going to have a little bit of a larger version, something that you could bring animals through. And I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to pull that off, considering the fact that you can't use double doors. So I don't know how that's going to work. I may have to experiment quite a bit before I find something that's appropriate. And I am kind of looking around a lot. I did do a little bit of off-camera exploration, and the trouble with the bandits is that I can usually kill one or maybe two, but it's always the third one that gets me. So I am very cautious as I go about this now. Very cautious and a little bit, a lot nervous. I was going to say a little bit nervous, but it's really more like a lot nervous. It really is. I've had them kind of sneak up on me out of nowhere. I've had them, now yes, they do make noise. It's like kind of talking to each other, sort of. But that's not always necessarily quite enough warning, especially if I don't have the volume turned very high up. So I've died a few times. I've gone through an awful lot of iron remaking this armor suit. And I'm just being very, very careful with the bandits, because I'm not a fighter. And that's why I don't play fighting games, because I suck at them. So I am being very, very careful to try not to get myself killed. And I'm trying to make sure that when I'm placing the doors, I'm placing them so that they are closed by default. Again, just something that we apparently need to kind of think about. Partly because, as I've said before, I don't know if the same thing that applies to the animals would apply to the NPCs. And that is that animals can walk through half of a double door, because when you place them, due to the rotation, the system only considers one door closed, and it will always consider the other door open. So it's really more of an appearance thing than it is anything even remotely practical. So that's something to kind of think about, and I'm going to have to experiment a bit with that to see what the best thing is to do. And, you know, I say, oh, there have been reports of animals walking through the open door. Yes, but I don't know what animal. So I don't know if it was a horse, and therefore that says that their hitboxes are small enough that they can walk through a single door, or if maybe it was something like a pig. I don't know. Again, I haven't gotten around to experimenting with that yet. I haven't done a lot with the animals yet in this build. and I just had the spacing off, the length off for some reason on some of these, so I did have to do some corrections, and just putting the edges on them really just seems to, it's like that tiny little extra touch that just completely polishes the whole thing up. I think it looks so much better that way. Hopefully you guys do too. It looks like an actual, like somebody took an actual metal grill and put it into the window. So it looks a little bit more complete, polished. Now granted, just the metal bars, that's possibly a little bit more authentic to a medieval style time period, just because they didn't have, you know, they just kind of put the bars in and were building the stone up around them. But I like the polished look of these a little bit better. All right, so we're getting close to the end here, just the last couple of minutes of the video. Because of the time lapse, this is definitely a shorter video. I'm only going to put a few finishing touches on this right now. As you can see, I was kind of thinking about where I wanted to put a light. I don't think it would be terribly realistic to be able to see it very clearly from outside, but I did still want the gatehouse to have some light to it. And I will be adding more little touches. Oh, you can see I actually put a couple of doors to protect my mine entrance as well. So just making a little bit of progress on some of those minor details that I hadn't quite gotten around to yet. I'm slowly starting to get around to those. And I'm probably going to do this off camera, but I'm going to chop down the trees that are outside the wall there, partly because I need lumber, partly because they look really weird coming through the stone wall. So by the time next episode comes, that will be gone. It will look much more realistic. And I will get around to finishing the roof on this, but my scaffolding is over with one of the corner towers that I'm building, so I wasn't going to worry about going and getting it and doing all of that. But this, I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. It's blending in nicely with everything else that I'm doing, which makes me happy. And yeah, that's really going to wrap it up. Anyhow, sorry this has been a little bit different and I've been a little bit rambly. I hope that you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more, drop a comment down below with any suggestions that you might have, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for stopping in to watch, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.